Welcome in, everyone, to Late Night Baseball. I'm Anthony. That's Parker. We're up late every week talking baseball. Parker, how is it going this week?
It's good, man. I'm fine. My daughter sick, super sick, and when she's sick, it's like the end of the world. She's gonna be fine, but it's the end of the world. Haven't slept in a few days. Super excited about baseball and Roki Sasaki. So we're gonna do this. This isn't my flu game because I think I've already said that one before. But we're rolling tired today, dude.
We're rolling tired and we're rolling freezing our ass off because here in the Midwest, it had reached single digits today. It is terrible.
Hold on, let me pull up my weather app.
Don't even rub it in right now. If it's anything above 65, we're canceling the show.
Oh, it's not 65. Now. It's not 65. It's 48. And when we wake up at it gets chilly out here in the desert. When we wake up in the morning, it's like low 40s.
I'll take that. That's a heat wave right now over here.
Yeah, that's fucking spring for you, my dude.
I know. Well, no, I'm with you. I have a kid at home. Here who is also very, very sick. I feel like everyone and their mother has like this like week or like month long just
it's the itis,
cold
dude.
Situation. It is.
Yeah.
Goodness. But you know what also is going on right now in baseball is there's a case of Saki-itis going on, which sounds really wrong what I just said, but bear with me because there's a lot going on with the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes, and I wanted to talk about it right off the bat before we got to our continuation of our All-MLB draft, which we'll get to in a second. But Roki Sasaki, Parker, has narrowed this thing down to 3 teams: the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Blue Jays. What do you make of that?
I think he's narrowed it down, man, and that makes it super exciting. Listen, I'm going to be real. I'm going to be really real. The Blue Jays are not in this fucking sweepstakes. Like, I don't. No. I just don't see it. Like, it feels like now, granted, I'm melodramatic as shit, but if I were a pitcher in Japan and somebody said, would you like to post early and then go to the United States and make your name for yourself in the United States and then Major League Baseball? I don't know that the Blue Jays are the place that I'm going to do that. I don't know that Canada is the place that I'm going to do that.
I'll tell you exactly what happened, Parker. I know what happened. What happened was Ross Atkins called agent Joel Wolf and said, Joel, listen, I'm getting raked over the coals up here. I need a seat at the table. Just help me out. Help a brother out. That's exactly what happened.
I do want to bring up, though, interestingly enough, because we talk about a lot of stuff like this when we talk about baseball free agents. We talk about tax rates in different states quite a bit. And something that has disqualified California and Toronto in the past has been tax rates. Well, you're going to get taxed quite a bit in both of those in the state of California and in Toronto, whether you decide to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers or the San Diego Padres or the Blue Jays. And then also in either of those divisions, you're in highly taxed areas for the majority of your games. So interesting to see that I think he was not joking when he said money's not a factor. I think winning environment and development is a factor. And when you look at organizations that have the ability to develop pitching, I mean, the Dodgers and Padres are there for sure. And then Toronto just needs somebody to take their money. So it makes perfect sense that these 3 teams are the ones that are involved in the sweepstakes.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think we all understand, like you said, that it's going to be a Dodgers or Padres situation. But first off, I think you and I called this exactly. I mean, and most people did, right? You had him go.
I think really you did, man. Like, you can own that. Like, you had the Padres early on in this.
I did have the Padres early on, and honestly, for good reason. Because if I look at these 2 teams, like we're saying, it's going to be, I think, Dodgers or Padres. And if you look at these 2 rotations, they could not be in a more different spot because everyone and their mother is in the Dodgers rotation. Where they're even going to fit this guy in, God knows. And then the Padres, really need a Roki Sasaki right now.
But and interestingly enough for the Padres, it's kind of all they need. Like they need one guy. It's not like
Right.
a Red Sox situation where it's like sign 3 starters, please. No,
No.
this is a team that needs one more guy. They lost Blake Snell a couple years back, and they never really filled that. And we talked about this, I think via text the other day, and I'm not going to scroll through our thousands of text messages we've sent since then, but I really think that the Padres are kind of a Roki away from really contending, like having one of the best rotations in baseball. I don't know that anybody competes with the Dodgers these days, but
Yeah.
one of the best rotations in baseball when you factor in the fact that they still have Yu Darvish, they still have Dylan Cease, they still have Joe Musgrove, they have Michael King. Talk about a 5-headed monster if you bring in a guy like Roki Sasaki.
Honestly, yeah. I mean I think they're in a much better position at a Roki. Their lineup is still. Let's not sleep on the Padres lineup. I think it's easy to forget how good this lineup is. When you're kicking out your first 4 is Luis Arias, Fernando Tatis, Jackson Merrill, and Manny Machado, guys. Still, this is a potent lineup, and the only thing they needed really is a fortified rotation, and you're putting immediately out of the gate a number 1, number 2 starter in Roki Sasaki. This is one of those things, you look at the Padres offseason, we talk about Peter, the passing of Peter Seidler and what it meant for that franchise. This franchise
There's a lot of drama surrounding the Padres here recently, and honestly, might deserve an episode. Like, this is crazy, the stuff that's going on.
It is crazy, and it's showing in the offseason because they have been hella quiet all offseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are 1 or 2 moves away from being very, very legitimate World Series contenders, especially with their playoff showing in the past year. And honestly, they're a World Series contender, I think, if they do nothing. Like, I do believe that the ceiling for this lineup, I do believe, is a World Series minimally in appearance. If they all perform as great as they could. Like, think about if a couple things go their way last season, they're in the World Series. So I don't know. The Seidler saga that has happened, like, I genuinely think we should take some time after you and I have both had more time to look at it and research it a little more.
Yeah.
But he overspent, it feels like, when he was with us. And it has put them in an awkward position these days. Mm-hmm. But they're still feeling the positive effects of that spending these days, where they are very competitive. And it's just like, where do you go from here, especially with the turmoil surrounding who actually is going to own the Padres, let's say, in 5 years?
That's something I always struggle with that's something I always struggle with the Padres, because we've known them for so long as being this mid-market at most team. But let's not forget that they were 4th in 2024 in attendance, and they've been, for the last handful of years, up there in attendance. Like, this is a team that rakes in the cash. I don't know that it's a matter of, I wonder how much of it really is the spending, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, how much of it really is the spending? Because, I mean, it's easy to forget in a division that includes the Dodgers how good this team can be. I mean, damn it, they won 93 wins last year in the NL West. Like, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. When you play games against the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks are very good. That NL West division is up there with, it's one of, I would say top 2 divisions in baseball, between the fact that the Giants are always, they're above 500 for the most part, most of the time, and they're a pretty competitive team, especially since that, like, Hail Mary season they had a few years ago. They've kind of been somebody that nobody can erase from their mind in terms of contention. And you made a great point that the Padres have one of the more slept on, loyal fan bases in baseball. Southern California breathes baseball, man. Like, I've said it a few times on this podcast. I play adult men's baseball out here because you cannot drive past a high school in the middle, like, basically on any weekend, no matter what the season, and not see baseball being played. The Padres benefit from that quite a bit, and they benefit from the fact that they have a top 3 ballpark in all of baseball. and that might sound like I'm grasping at straws to make this team relevant, but it all plays. It all is a reason. It's a reason why we want the Orioles to be good, because they have a great ballpark. They have a young core. Well, the Padres have a great ballpark, and they have a very experienced and very good core. So I guess if you were to ask me today to kind of wrap this back around to Roki, who do I want him to sign with? It's who you said earlier in this saga. I really hope he signs with the Padres.
Yeah, it really is an ideal fit, really for both sides, right? I think one of the things that is going to matter for Roki signing essentially at a international signing pool rate, he's going to be probably around 5 to 6 million. You need to make money on those endorsements, right? And I don't know that he's going to get as much of the pie on a team that has Shohei Ohtani and Yoshi. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think. I think that could be part of the calculus too. Also, for those of you who don't know, he is best buds with Yu Darvish, like legitimately best buds with Yu
idolizes him.
Yes,
like grandfather level, very good friends with Yu Darvish. One thing I do think that you hit on the head is the endorsement money is going to be the majority of his earnings over the course of the time that he's in the States, most likely, at least. That endorsement money I'm not going to say it doesn't exist in Toronto, because of course it does. Like, they are going to watch his games, but you're going to be more appealing on an endorsement level if you're playing your games in a time zone that the Japanese audience can watch. And having lived in Japan for a couple of years of my life, I would watch every single Red Sox game that was on the West Coast, because it happened to take place when I was kind of just getting to work and had already had my cup of coffee and was able to tuck in for a little bit of a baseball game while I sat down and did some paperwork. So, I mean, that is a not zero factor in his decision. I'm almost positive.
Man, the Blue Jays. I can't wait till we preview the divisions and get to the AL East. They're going to take so many strays. I'm sorry. I'm just preparing everyone now.
It's a weird situation, and we can hit on it first. We can hit on it, maybe not first, but we can hit on it once we get to the AL East, and we're going to talk about later on which divisions we're going to start with and stuff like that. But like, dude, we get to do division previews here soon, and until the Blue Jays prove it, they haven't proved it.
No, they haven't, and they can find themselves in going in a complete opposite direction pretty quickly here. But that's for another time. I don't want to start talking about the Blue Jays, because we'll go into that for about 15 to 20 minutes. But today, folks, what we're doing is we're going to continue the All-MLB draft that we were doing last week. Parker and I drafted lineups. This week, we are drafting pitchers. So we're going to be drafting 5 starters and 2 relievers to put together Parker and I's All-MLB team. And see who can put together the best pitching rotation. So this one I'm pretty excited for, Parker. Last week we had a hell of a fun time putting together those lineups, but I think the pitching one's going to get very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, those lineups are super fun. I still have them pulled up on my screen, and sometimes like there's a couple picks that I made that I'm like, would I still pick them today if I had the opportunity to rethink them? And like, yeah, no, I'm really happy with my lineup. I'm really happy with yours. If you don't follow us on Instagram, I will be making those posts here in the next week. I know I promised them last week. My daughter's been sick. I said that earlier. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm going to be making those posts here in the next week. And like, we had a good time doing that. The pitching, I feel like, because you have such a large pool of pitchers, combined with the fact that you only get to carry 5 starters per hour. We get 5 starters and 2 relievers in our draft. And that kind of it's a huge pool for not very many picks. So I'm very excited to see where this both goes. Real quick, one thing I wanted to say, last thing on Roki Sasaki, just kind of a credit to his agent. And I don't know his agent's name off the top of my head.
Joel Wolf.
But if Joel, you did a good job, because if you had asked me what were the team names that I needed to include to drive the price up of my guy, it would be the Dodgers and Blue Jays right now. If I wanted to go to the Padres and then include 2 teams to drive the price up on my guy, Dodgers and Blue Jays, man, those are the guys to do it. Yeah. So we've seen a masterclass from Scott Boras on how to manipulate the media and to get the price for each of his free agents up as high as possible. And it almost seems like Joel Wolf has pretty much learned from that. And not that he needed to learn. Maybe he's the most savvy businessman in the world. I've never heard of him before. But he did a good job so far. I mean, I have no doubt that Roki Sasaki is going to consume the international free agent pool for whatever team he signs for.
Oh, absolutely. And they knew that going in, that all that money would be going to that one guy. All right, Parker, I think it's time. I'm very eager to get into this. So hold on before we draft. So you got the first pick last time. Now, here's the deal. If for those of you who listened last week and been following this draft, I picked Shohei Ohtani, and my initial reaction last week was, oh, well, let me draft him as the two-way player. And I still do want him in my rotation. I decided this. So I almost kind of think, Parker, since I already have one starting pitcher on the board in Ohtani, I will cede the first pick to you again if you think that's appropriate.
So here's my thought. I got the first pick in the lineup draft. So I feel obligated to give you the first pick in the pitching rotation draft. First and foremost, number one, the reason here's the reason. This is stupid because I'm gaming myself here. My first overall pick, I do not think is the guy that you want for your first overall pick. But I know that if I pick the guy that you want for your first pick, that I'm not going to get the guy that I want for my first pick. Personally, I think both first picks are already written on the wall. That's how I feel.
Seriously? Really?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see how confident you. We'll see how that plays true. Here's another option I'll recommend. I'll recommend this as an option. Or how do I say this?
Here's what I'll say. You can you have Shohei. I am not drafting Shohei today. He's on your roster. Whether he's a starting pitcher or not, totally up to you.
Okay. Could we do you get the first pick, but then I pick 2, and then we go back and forth?
That feels opposite of how it should be. I'm not trying, this sounds like I'm trying to get myself an extra pick, but it feels like if you decide randomly that Shohei's in your rotation, I should get an extra pick. But I think here's the deal. How about this? I'll take the first pick. And if you decide to have Shohei, then he just counts as a pick. But I can't pick Shohei.
Okay, well, then we solved this because I for sure want Shohei. I've already decided that, so I'll just do the first pick.
Okay, so your first pick, Shohei?
Okay. All right. No! Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Listen. Okay, look. Shohei is already on my board. Am I taking the first pick or not? This is hugely important to what's going to happen here in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Not 5 to 10 minutes, by the way. No way we're going to do this.
Yeah, we're going to take way too long on this. You can take the first pick.
All right. Here we go. Okay, mind you, I'm going to do something before I do this pick, and I'm going to plug Fangraphs because, believe it or not,
that's who I use too.
I subscribed to Fangraphs for the first time today on the monthly subscription. Very excited about it. Their dark mode, incredible.
Really?
So much. Awesome. I love it. I'm going to plug them for a
baseball nerd shit of all time.
I know. Well, I signed in for Fangraphs and the dark mode is awesome. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
You subscribe to Fangraphs. I subscribe to Baseball Reference. We'll trade logins and we'll there you go. Allegedly.
Perfect.
That's not.
None of you heard that. Allegedly. Allegedly. All right, let's do this thing. Parker. All right. I knew I was going to maybe get the first pick here, and boy, did I really think about this because this is the hardest pick I've had to make so far in our All-MLB because, man, there are a lot of doozies in the top of the war leaders for starting pitchers. I did not go to the top of the war leader list for this pick, okay? Because there's one guy that I believe in more than probably anyone on this list in 2025. And guess what, Parker? I have the need. I
fucking knew it.
For Skeens, baby. I have the need for Skeens. And I'm putting him on my rotation first pick. Book it.
I didn't even put him on my draft board because I was so convinced that you were going to pick Paul Skeens for your rotation this upcoming season. Now, again, I want to point this out. So when we did the all position players draft, we came to the consensus that we were giving them 162 games. Like injuries don't play a factor. Like we're going to take like the 162 game average for these guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think 30 starts of Paul Skeens, that's a number one starter. If you were to ask me, that dude's an absolute fucking dog.
Well, I'll tell you what, the projection for him, in fact, is 31 starts, the Fangraphs projection, and it's a 2.80 ERA with a 31.9 K percentage. I'll take that to the bank.
Yep. I can't blame you. I can't blame you in the slightest. However, being that you are such a clear Paul Skeens fan.
Oh, yeah. Homer.
And so am I. Love him too. I kind of had an idea that you were going to pick Paul Skeens. And to be honest, there was already a guy that I wanted more than Paul Skeens. And so I was okay with conceding the first pick to you, knowing that this guy was going to fall to me. Because Tarek Skubal is going to be the number one starting pitcher in my rotation. The reigning American League Cy Young leader. The man himself. Tarek Skubal is a special baseball player. I don't really know how else to describe it other than the fact that the man had a 1.024 whip last season, 7.1 hits per nine. He only issued 38 walks in 164 innings pitched in a 2.96 ERA. I genuinely think that this is the best current pitcher in baseball. He's a lefty, which lefties just do better against major league hitters than other like the splits against lefties are a couple points lower than right-handed pitchers in Major League Baseball. And I couldn't think of a better guy to head up my rotation, my fictional rotation, than a healthy and coming off a Cy Young Tarek Skubal, a guy who's still pre-arb. And I think that's kind of a key. Because I thought about Blake Snell and I thought about guys who have already gotten money, is putting them on my board, and like I just don't know that Blake Snell is going to be as fired up to perform in a rotation that includes 45 starting pitchers and a guy who just got his big contract with the Dodgers. I think that a guy like Tarek Skubal, who's on a very young, very competitive and up and coming Tigers team, who is pre-arbitration, who's coming off of Cy Young, I think this is the perfect recipe for a dominant season.
Wow, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, we're going to look back at Tarek Skubal from the last couple of years before his Cy Young season in 24, and we're going to go, remember when Tarek Skubal was just a dude? Well, he's going to be a Cy Young candidate, I think, for the next handful of years. I think you hit it right on there, and wow, it's just a guy that really popped up on the scene, right? Like, I don't know that I expected that out of Tarek Skubal 2 seasons ago, that he would be where he is right now.
No, yeah, and so the ERA that I just gave is his projected ERA of a 2.96 for 2025. If you're projected for a sub-3 ERA, you're probably kind of a dog. In 2024, he actually put up a 2.39 ERA. But he was already kind of a guy in 2023, and only 80 innings pitched. He had a 2.8 ERA, and I don't know, man, 228 strikeouts last year just gave me a lot of faith in what this guy's going to be able to do. 6.3 WAR as a starting pitcher with 18 wins. Just, yeah,
something.
I 192 innings pitched. Like it's crazy.
Goodness. Well, you put me in a tough spot, my friend. And also, I definitely drew that up, and I think you did too. If you had to project the first couple of picks, we knew that's where this was going.
Yeah, I think did I say it on the pod or before the pod? I don't remember, but I think that the first 2 picks were like kind of chalk. Like I think we kind of knew who the first 2 picks were going to be, because Paul Skeens didn't win the Cy Young last year, but it was like any year in the last 5 years, Paul Skeens' season would have won the Cy Young, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just Chris Sale happened to be insane last year.
True.
Yeah.
This is tough. Okay. Like, you would think the pick would be Chris Sale. I'm here to tell you it's not, because I don't know how long Chris Sale is going to continue Chris Sale things. It will go away eventually,
Yeah.
and I hope it doesn't. Don't get me wrong, but realistically, it's going to happen eventually, and it may happen in 2025. You never know. So
Right.
I'm not doing that, but I am going to go to someone who is incredibly consistent and someone who, if you're looking for a pitcher that is going to give you 200 innings, who's going to give you 30 plus starts every year and give you a respectable ERA, and last year he had a 257 ERA, still had a higher strikeout rate, not incredibly high, but 28.5. And again, he is a horse, he is a dog, and he's a dog especially in the postseason. And I think he's vastly underrated. I'm going with Zach Wheeler.
Wow. Yeah. So Zach Wheeler stuck out to me as I was looking, especially on the Fangraphs projections for this upcoming year and the Fangraphs results over the last couple of years. Quietly has been at least the third best starting pitcher in baseball for 3 years now. Already got his money, still had an incredible season. So, I mean, me from about 3 minutes ago can go ahead and suck it because the guy got his money and he's still a dog.
Right.
Zach Wheeler is, yeah, what a solid pick. I'm going to pull up his numbers now because for those of you who listen to the show, Anthony's kind of a Fangraphs guy and I'm kind of a BREF guy. So I actually like that dynamic because we kind of get both flavors of projected stats.
Right.
So I'm going to pull up Zach Wheeler right now, but like, he's crazy.
As you're pulling that up, I kind of just, my head went to the same place. Is I want to know how he's been since he signed that contract in Philly. Guys, this is insane. Since he appeared in Philly in 2020, that shortened season, the ERA since then, 292, 278, 282, 361, a little bit higher, a 361, and a 257.
No.
Like, wow. I mean, what a hell of a signing by the Phillies. I'm not at all bitter that the White Sox were on him and he declined the White Sox. Not bitter
at all. No, he's on your team now, so we're good.
Fair.
Genuinely though, if your down season, like your worst season in the last 5 years is 2023 with a 3.6 ERA and 192 innings pitched with 32 games started,
what are we doing?
Super okay with that. Super duper okay with that. I'm pretty sure he had his big injury year in no, that wasn't 2020. Everybody made 11 starts in 2020. He just hasn't had, he hasn't had his big injury year. Which is the only thing that's kind of concerning. Like that could rear its head here soon. 2015. He did. In 2015, he missed the entire year. That's what it was.
That's right. Good call. Yeah. That is right.
So I don't know.
I forget his Mets days. Yeah, he did struggle with injury early in his Mets days. He did.
Yeah, I mean, he made 32 starts in 2014 with the Mets and then missed all of 2015 for injury. I guess he missed all of 2016 as well because there's nothing here for 2016.
I think he had a Tommy John surgery.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So he came back and in 2017 on 17 games started, he had a 5.2 ERA. So he has already been, not to rock bottom because a 5.2 ERA isn't necessarily rock bottom for a guy who rebounded as well as he did, but he's been to the levels of uncertainty that a pitcher could only have nightmares about and has rebounded quite effectively and become one of the, if not the most, I would say maybe most reliable starter in baseball for sure.
Yeah, Tommy John surgery, March 2015. So yeah, that tracks. Wow,
March 2015 and missed all of 2015 and 16. So hey, he took his time to recover.
Sure did, and it looks like it paid off. Go ahead, Parker. Who are you thinking?
Okay. So let me write this down. So you went ahead and took Zach Wheeler, which I did have on my board. I was looking at him. I looked at Zach Wheeler. There's a pick I could make that I'm thinking about that I don't think is on your board.
Interesting.
So I'm not going to make him now, and I'm going to take the gamble that he stays on the board. There's actually a couple guys that I have on my board that I don't think are on yours. But I think I'm going to go ahead and take, for my second pick and my number 2 starter in my All-MLB draft, I'm going to take Logan Webb.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Now, Logan Webb has been another one of those guys. Zach Wheeler and Logan Webb occupy the same exact spot in my brain. They're super reliable. They are soft contact guys. They just go out there and they make 30 plus starts a year, and nobody ever blinks about it, and nobody ever bats an eye. Zach Wheeler has cleared 200 innings both of the last 2 years, and then the year prior had 192. Not Zach Wheeler, Logan Webb is what I meant to say. Logan Webb had a 3.47 ERA last year, which is kind of a down year for him, because since 2021, he's put up a 3.03, a 2.9, and a 3.25. Analytics might say, oh, his ERA has increased every year for the last few years. Not worried about it. I think that Logan Webb, especially with the kind of pitcher he is, with the defensive upgrades that he has had over the last couple years, over this offseason, I think he's going to have a great season. Last year was actually, outside of 2021, last year was his best FIP he has ever had. Now, for those of you who don't know what FIP is, it is fielding independent pitching. So basically only takes into account all true outcomes. Now, what are the 3 true outcomes? They are strikeouts, they are home runs, and they are walks. So taking into account only those at-bats that had those outcome, if you only took those into account, he would have a 2.95 ERA last season. Mm-hmm. It is a flawed stat. It is not a stat that speaks exactly to the efficacy of a pitcher, especially one that pitches in San Francisco. But I think that it speaks to Zach Wheeler. I keep wanting to say Zach Wheeler. Logan Webb's effectiveness, that all things taken out, except for his efficacy against hitters, Logan Webb is a very effective pitcher, and a 2.95 FIP is super respectable no matter what ballpark you play in. And for a guy who gets a lot of ground balls, and with the fact that Major League Baseball is generally pretty right-handed dominant, I think that we're going to see a lot of good results from a guy who has now Matt Chapman locked up into a long-term deal at third base. Willie Adames playing shortstop for him. I think that we're going to see a really good season out of Logan Webb. Genuinely, on any given season, could just decide to win the Cy Young Award.
He really could. I think Logan Webb's interesting because he is one of those guys that, like, when I look at, and I even want to pull it up here to make sure I don't get it wrong. Where are we at here? Like, when I look at where the heck is this? Can you pull up his strikeouts in 2024? Why can I not find this in here?
Yeah, no, I got it. It's he had 172 strikeouts in 2024, which for a ground ball guy is so high.
Okay, that's exactly what I was gonna say, right? Like, for a ground ball guy, that's pretty high. I think he's consistently up in the top, I would say 3 to 5, and when it comes to ground ball rate in baseball, consistently every year. So I really like that pick. I would like to see him with a little higher K per 9, I would say, as K per 9 hovers around 7 or 8. To me,
I think that hurts his Cy Young candidacy, because I think when people think about a Cy Young, think about a guy who's striking out 10 per 9. And he's just never been that kind of guy. Last year, his strikeouts per 9 was 7.6. He's never had higher than a 9.6, but that was all the way back in 2021. Last year, he finished Cy Young 6th, the year before Cy Young 2. But I think the thing that sticks out to me most in his second in Cy Young season in 2023, he had a 6.26 strikeout to walk ratio, which is just like, you take strikeouts, you put it over walks. What's the end of that math problem? Well, he had 6.26 times more strikeouts than he had walks. Guy just doesn't really walk people. He regressed quite a bit into 2024 at 3.44 strikeout to walk ratio, which is still very good. Like, it's still a very, very, very good strikeout to walk ratio. It's just not superhuman. I think if you look at his 162 game average of a 3.77 strikeout to walk ratio, that's elite. Like, I think he's just going to continue to be elite. He figured something out after the 2020 season where he had a 1.92 strikeout to walk ratio, and since then he's just kind of been up and up.
Yeah, that's a solid pick. I never thought about it, but you said it right. I think, Wheeler and Webb, one and the same. It's a really,
To me,
different one.
I get them confused quite a bit. Yes, their last names both start with W, and that has something to do with it. But they occupy the same place in my head.
Yeah.
Just a guy with funky stuff that gets dudes out, however it takes. Strikeouts, ground balls. No, not really a lot of fly balls from either of them.
Love that.
Where are you at for number 3? Now, we can pick relievers earlier than...
Yeah.
Pick relievers whenever
100%.
you want.
100%. Now, I'm not going to take that advice. I'm going to continue to take a starter. But here's why I'm going to take a starter. Because I feel like you are excited about this guy.
Okay.
And I love this guy because him and I have a history. Not like a hangout bro history, but we have a history.
Oh, are you about to go where I think you're about to go?
I think I am. And let me tell you, I want someone in my rotation that is going to guarantee a high K per 9, who's going to give me 200 plus strikeouts in a season. And if you look at his projections for 2025, kind of nuts. He's got a 32% strikeout rate. Again, this is a projection.
You're taking him off the board.
ERA. Oh, I'm taking him. And his FIP 287. So come on down, Garrett Crochet. Come on down.
Garrett Crochet. There were 2 guys from with White Sox pedigree that I thought you might pick, and this was definitely one of them. He's on my draft board. You just took him away from me, but Garrett Crochet, dude, you're not gonna find a guy who's higher on Garrett Crochet than me. Absolutely a fantastic pick. Why don't you speak to him?
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Crochet is one of those guys too, where let me tell you, I am super jealous that he's with the Red Sox, but also super thrilled for you because this is a guy, when you look at his funky delivery, you look at that high K per 9, you look at the fact that if he continues in this trajectory, you are guaranteed 200 plus strikeouts out of this guy. And again, being a left-hander, we like quirky left-handers. It's exactly what he is. I'll tell you what, watching him pitch is incredible because this guy, let me just put this in context. He's 6'6", 245. That huge. Coming at you at 97, 98, 99, sometimes can hit 100. That's coming off the hand looking 105. It's nuts.
I agree. Garrett Crochet is one of those guys that reminds me a lot of Paul Skeens, where he can throw. Garrett Crochet could probably throw 101 if he really, truly wanted to, but knows that he does not need to. And that's what gives me hope for him and as well as Paul Skeens for not getting hurt here in the next, 3 years, is that they don't rely on their velocity on every single pitch. Like we see, there are as many relievers as you can count on all your fingers and toes that are super dominant in baseball that could very well just not be here next year because they rely on 100 miles an hour to get every single out that they record. Yeah. And I think that the mark of a really good pitcher, especially a starting pitcher who's expected to go out there and throw 100 plus pitches every 5 days, I think that the mark of a really good starting pitcher these days is somebody who can hit those velocity marks, but has the stuff to not require it. And to me, nobody embodies that more than Garrett Crochet and Paul Skeens. So fantastic pick, I think.
I mean, I'll leave it at this. When you're throwing a sinker that averages 97.9 miles per hour, that's dangerous.
Dangerous. Dude, like that is crazy. From a left-hander working in on left-handies, jamming left-handers and just leaving the zone on right-handers. He's very good, man. He's a very good pitcher, and I'm so happy. You can have him on your pretend roster because he's on my real roster, man.
Fair enough. You son of a bitch. Go ahead.
Okay, so with your Garrett Crochet pick, now I'm starting to work farther down my draft board, and I'm starting to get to guys that I really want to pick that I don't think are on your draft board.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do with this pick is move into the reliever side of things. We both get 2 relievers, and we both need to pick those relievers, at some point during the draft. And I think that there's a couple that are so good that they need to be picked early. And personally, I think that me taking Devin Williams as my closer and my reliever one on my team is personally, I think it's a good pick because the guy here, let me explain how nasty Devin Williams is. And this is nothing to do with analytics. This has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that he's disgusting. Devin Williams changeup is so good. And I've said this before. It is coded into MLB The Show as a fucking screwball because it moves so much that it moves like a screwball, but he throws it with the grip of a changeup. He's Team USA's closer. That's why I'm wearing Team USA's hat right now.
Wow.
Devin Williams, come on down. You're the closer for my team.
That is a hell of a pick. Honestly, the Yankees needed something. They needed a shutdown guy at the end of that bullpen, and I applaud them for pulling off that trade for mind you, for seemingly nothing.
Bucket of baseballs.
It blows my mind. Hey, hello, Milwaukee. What are we doing over there? Are we awake? Because I felt that they just handed them Devin Williams. It was quite amazing, that deal.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. They did throw a bunch of cash at him for that trade, but Devin Williams, I think, and it's interesting too, because if you think about it, you think about the Yankees, you think about their relievers, and like throughout history, who we've associated with relievers, and it's guys that throw somewhat hard, guys who, are consistently throwing over 90 miles an hour, and their out pitch is something that's super challenging to the hitter in like a come at you kind of challenging. And I'm basically describing Mariano Rivera, like you throw a cutter in, it breaks your bat, you dribble out to the shortstop. That's kind of what we associate with them. But when we look at a guy like Devin Williams, he's almost the opposite. He's a ground ball guy. He's not getting a million strikeouts in a season, but you still can't hit baseballs off of him. He's still just as nasty as any pitcher you could ever throw out there for a 1, 2, 3 inning. Devin Williams, I think, is at the top of his game as it pertains to relievers, and I've talked about my reservations as it comes to his health. I think that somebody who has had stress fractures in their arm is innately, I think, now I'm not a medical professional, but I think he is a little risky when it comes to his health moving forward. But somebody who makes their money throwing a changeup genuinely doesn't, I think that almost counteracts what my point is with his health. I think that this is somebody that can stay healthy, has shown that except for one season, he basically has stayed healthy, and I'm willing to bet on him for 2025.
Wow, that's a really solid pick. And you know what? I'm looking at what I have here, and I do have 4 starters already, 1 starting pitcher spot left, and 2 relievers left. So I'm going to take your advice, and I'm going to go to relievers now. And your Devin Williams pick, solid pick, without a doubt. I would love him. But here's something when I look at Devin Williams. There's one other reliever, okay, that mirrors him in a lot of ways. You look at the K rate, you look at the ERA, you even look at the projections for 2025. They're all similar. But here's one thing with my pick that makes him a little different, that stands out to me. He walks a lot less batters than Devin Williams, and he has a higher ground ball rate. Now, to me, that's important because if I have this guy pitching in the 9th inning, 1 walk, 2 walks, that matters. And Devin Williams sometimes with his control gets a little out of whack, but not Emmanuel Clase. And that is why I'm taking him as my closer.
Genuinely, I know I just waxed poetic about Devin Williams, but if you were to ask me at this moment in time, who is the most overpowering reliever in baseball, Emmanuel Clase has got to be the guy. He had a season for the ages last season. And now we did see a very, very harsh fall off in the month of September. I think that was due to his usage. I think he was overused by the Cleveland Guardians. And not that I'm not out here to, shoot shots at Stephen Vogt. I love Stephen Vogt. Love the guy. I would probably put Emmanuel Clase out there every single day that I could. And I would be willing to bet that Emmanuel Clase told him every single day, I'm good to go. That's just kind of the competitor that he is. But yeah, no, Manuel Clase, if you were to ask me the one pitcher in baseball that I would not want to face as a hitter today, the guy that scares me the most, it's Manuel Clase.
Absolutely.
What a good pick, man. Okay. So I have Devin Williams, you have Emmanuel Clase. I now have 2 starting pitchers and a reliever that I have to pick, and wait, no. I have 3 starting pitchers I have to pick.
You do. And you were going to get to a point here where you're going to have to make 2 straight picks at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to save those 2 straight picks at the end. But I'm going to pick a starter right now that I think that to be clear, this is not the other White Sox pitcher, former White Sox pitcher that I thought you would pick. I had another guy on my radar, but this is a former White Sox pitcher. And I think that having thrown a no-hitter last season, he is an incredible example of a guy that has been consistent over many years. And I think that this is a guy that is just absolutely another one of those guys that could just decide to win a Cy Young next season, and nobody would bat an eye at him. Dylan Cease is going to be the next pitcher in my starting rotation. He is disgusting. A guy that sports a career 3.75 ERA in 2024. He started 33 games. He put up 4.2 WAR. He had a 3.47 ERA, and I think it's just up from here, genuinely. When you talk about a guy who led the big leagues in starts made at 33, or at least tied for that, he threw a complete game shutout, being that no-hitter, which these days is just so hard to come by. 224 strikeouts, just one of the more dominant guys that you could ever throw on the mound on any given day, and kind of rebounded from a down season in 2023 with the White Sox, where he had a sub 100 ERA plus, which means he was technically a below average starting pitcher. He had a 97 ERA plus in 2023, rebounded with a 118 ERA plus, so 18% better than the average starting pitcher in 2024. Could genuinely one day just decide that he is again the 2022 version of himself and go out there and just win a Cy Young. So I am here. I am on the Dylan Cease train. I think that he very well could be my NL Cy Young pick this upcoming season. In the last 3 seasons, he has finished second, and he has finished second and finished fourth in NL Cy Young voting, and both in 2022 and 2024 finished 22nd in MVP voting. Dylan Cease, come on down. You're my guy.
Damn. Yeah, I mean, that would have been one of my next picks, to be quite honest. I have a special place in my heart for Dylan Cease. He's one of my favorite guys. You know that. And this is one of those
I'll trade you Dylan Cease for Garrett Crochet.
No. Hard pass. But you know what, though? It's a good pick because you said it perfectly, right? This is a guy that literally has all the ingredients of a Cy Young pitcher, and he just has to put it together. He has done it before. And I do think next season with the Padres, you're more likely to see that, because this last year was a rougher one for Dylan Cease. I think he's one of those guys that is so cerebral, and his work ethic is through the roof. I think he looked at 2024 and said, this is some bullshit, and he's picking it up in 25.
Absolutely. The ceiling for him is a Cy Young. The ceiling for him, I think, is 2 Cy Youngs in 4 years. Like, I think he's a Blake Snell kind of arm.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, this is tough. Darn it. Okay, so I have a pitcher, I have a pitcher. No shit. I have a starting pitcher and a relief pitcher left, and I'm really struggling with the last pitcher here because I could be dumb and go to the top of the WAR board and just go off of that. But I kind of don't want to, because I'm thinking about, we got to put together the best team, right? We got to put together the best team. And you know what, Parker? What makes a good team is just not a bunch of guys that shove. What makes a good team is culture, chemistry, having a best buddy in the rotation. You know what I mean? Like, let the good times roll. And I think my buddy Shohei needs a friend, which is why I'm going to add Yoshinobu Yamamoto into my rotation. I am going to go there. I'm going to go there because last year for Yoshi was a transition year, right? First year in Major League Baseball, first year in a big market like LA. I think in 2025, we're going to see a different Yamamoto, and I'll take the gamble on that.
I like that a lot. And I'm not going to pick him, and you're out of starting pitcher slots. So I'm going to say his name. But I very much considered taking Shota Imanaga for a lot of the reasons I think you took Yamamoto, which is there are these guys that came in last year from Japan. Both of us were a little skeptical on what their efficacy was going to be coming into the season, and both of them overperformed, I think, even our high ceiling expectations. Yamamoto was incredible in the games that he did pitch. He missed a little bit of time due to injury. I think that we're going to see a little bit of that come back here next season. I think he's probably somebody you can chalk in for 25 starts in a world where we're not just granting them 30 starts that like we are in this draft. But Yamamoto is disgusting, and the fact like his yo-yo curveball is like so cool. And for those of you who don't know what I mean when I say yo-yo curveball, cool. He throws a curveball. And for those of you who haven't thrown a curveball, you take a ball and you have to try to give it overspin, a ball that spins over top of itself as you release it. Most people accomplish that by holding a ball and almost sort of throwing it like a football with kind of a gradual overpronation of your wrist as you release the ball. Yoshinobu Yamamoto holds the ball like a yo-yo and literally slings it like a yo-yo towards home plate. And it is super, super cool the way that he's able to generate that. And that curveball that results from that release is super disgusting and one of the more effective. It's not even 12-6, which is what you would think from a curveball that's thrown with that release point. It's more of like a curveball that has more of a sweeping action than a 12-6, but somewhere in between is a sweeping curveball and that 12-6 motion. But it's incredible.
I'll tell you what it is, Parker, because I'm looking at Baseball Savant right now because I was curious. That 12-6, that vertical drop on that curveball is most of the time between 18 and 24 inches.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Especially somebody, and this is a guy who is not the tallest guy on the mound. So his release point is naturally lower than those who are. So when you talk about a curveball that comes at the plate looking like it's somewhat of a changeup, maybe even a fastball, and then falls 24 inches, try swinging at a ball that is dropping 24 inches that you're swinging at it. You're not going to give up many hits on that pitch. Yamamoto is a very, very good pitcher. Still has to prove that he is worth the $300+ million that he received last season. I think that there's a little bit of health that needs to play into that, but very good pick. I think he's going to be very good this next season.
Ooh, I am very intrigued by who you're picking next because I already have my last pick in my brain. And Parker, if you fucking take him, I'll be so pissed because I'm so amped about this guy. So choose wisely.
Okay. I'm not going to lie. Relievers are weird, and I am not 100% sold on any given reliever. So what I will say, I picked from my heart almost the entire time when it came to the like roster position player draft. So I'm going to make my one. Yeah, I'm going to make my one pick from the heart. And he had a down season last year. But I think you're safe because my pick to be my final reliever on my team and probably my 7th, 8th inning guy, like I said, very down year last season, but has been very effective over his career, is Johan Duran of the Minnesota Twins.
Wow.
You have your own splinker when it comes to Paul Skeens, but if you were to ask me, I've got the OG splinker in Major League Baseball. You can't describe a splitter that is more devastating than the one that Johan Duran throws at 99 miles an hour on average. And when it comes to a guy, here's the deal. I have my closer. I have the guy that's going to get 3 people out on most nights if you put him in the game, and that guy's Devin Williams. I'm thinking of this second reliever as a guy I can put out there to get any one person out, to maybe even get out of a bases loaded, no out jam. And on his best night, I don't know if you can pick a more dominant pitcher than Johan Duran.
Whew. I'm not gonna lie. You seemingly pulled that one out of your ass and got gold, because that's a great pick, and that he did not cross my mind not once.
He is one of
Man.
the pitchers that when I look at like the MLB.com highlights at the end of the night, I'll go pull his up on YouTube. I just love to watch this guy pitch. And I have a feeling I know who you're picking for your other reliever. And I think that he's another one of those guys that I go and watch their highlights all the time. But Johan Duran is just a dog. And again, I'm not picking him necessarily for his season. I'm picking him for his peak. And I think there might not be a pitcher with a more effective one batter outing than Johan Duran.
Man, that's a really solid pick to cap off your relievers. I'm going to stay with a reliever. That's my last spot that I have open. And we both have a lot of admiration for this fella. And we have a lot of admiration for the team that this fella plays for, because we talk about this team probably more than any other team on this goddamn show. And that is the Las Vegas A's of Sacramento.
Yep.
And I'm picking Mason Miller.
Yeah. Great pick. Great pick. He is the guy that when I said I look up their highlights when I find out they pitched, I'm turning that guy's game on. Most of the time, like I have alerts set up in the MLB app. If you don't know, you can do this. You can set it up so that when certain people are up to bat or certain people are playing, you can set up alerts. I have Mason Miller alerts set up in my MLB app. He is an electric factory. I am so happy he is still on the Las Vegas A's, because you and I are A's fans at the end of the day, and everybody who listens to this podcast knows it. And the fact that the A's have been forced to spend some money in this past season, and their roster looks pretty good. By the way, they signed Brent Rooker. I don't think that we talked about that on the last pod. Nice 6-year deal for Brent Rooker. Team friendly and player friendly. Mason Miller is an electric factory. I think he's going to be very good this next season. I'm super concerned for his health, because he's one of those guys that does kind of feel like he needs to throw 102 on every single night that he pitches to get outs. So I think we're going to miss a season, maybe even a season and a half here in the next 3 to 5 years for him. But for the times that he is on the mound and he's super effective, especially all of last season, don't know that there's been a more intriguing reliever in all of baseball.
Nearly 14.5 Ks per 9 in 2024. That is outrageous for a reliever.
Man. Yeah, that's disgusting. There's nobody filthier. Wow. I knew you were going to pick him, and I really wanted to pick him, but I have this soft spot in my heart for Johan Duran. I play baseball. I throw a splitter. It's not good. It would get absolutely bombed by most people, but I love the splitter as a pitch. I grew up a Roger Clemens fan and loved his splitter even when I was a kid. So I love everybody that throws one. That's why I picked Johan Duran. But Mason Miller, man, who's going to hit 103 with I think it's 12 to 14 inches of movement on his damn fastball. He's insane.
You're just not.
Nope. You're not going to hit him. So I get 2 picks now, right?
2 picks. You have 2 starters left.
2 starters. Now, I'm thinking of these as my number 4 and my number 5 starters. I'm thinking of them as that. And being that we have the benefit of drafting just 2 starting rotations out of every starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, these guys are the number 1 starter on each of their respective teams. However, there's just the semblance of doubt that applies to them that makes me a little worried, and why I waited so long to draft them for this upcoming season. But my number 4 starter has been whispered a little bit in trade talks over the last week or 2. And he's coming off Tommy John surgery. Actually, both of these pitchers that I'm about to pick are coming off Tommy John surgery. But I'm picking Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins to be my number 4 starter. And genuinely, I think a lot of people forget how dominant he has been over the course of his career. I mean, he has pitched he was with St. Louis in 2017. He only pitched 8 games for them, but since then he's been with Miami. And when he won the Cy Young in 2022, he pitched 228 innings, which was I'll be honest, it was probably the driving force behind him winning the Cy Young, and the fact that he threw six complete games in the year 2022, to the tune of a 2.28 ERA, and put up an 8.0 WAR, Baseball Reference WAR, in that time with 207 strikeouts. That's the season I'm gonna cite, because 2023 made 28 starts, but it was clear like he got Tommy John after that surgery, and so he was not quite as effective in 2023, putting up a 4.14 ERA. Sandy Alcantara, I think that his middle of the road season is a 3.5 ERA, if not lower.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at his 162 game average, his average is a 3.32 ERA over his career. So I'm banking on that. And as my number 4 starter, I think that somebody that has that middle of the road as a 3.3 with the ceiling of being a Cy Young winner with an 8 WAR season, personally, like genuinely, I think that as a number 4 starter, that's kind of a steal.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about Alcantara. Does he have Cy Young stuff? Are the tools there? Absolutely. I think there's a couple things that have killed him the last couple of years. I think being on a Marlins team that struggled defensively has shown in his FIP. I mean, his FIP in 2023 was 403. Like,
yeah,
I mean, that's
forcing strikeouts. That's trying to strike people out.
100%. And so I think he feels the pressure of not having defense behind him. And I'll also say, like, a guy with the tools and the pitches that Alcantara has, I need him striking out more batters. I mean, right now his K per 9 in the last couple of years, 815. 2023 it was 2023 it was 2023 it was 7.36. He's a guy where could it be a number 1 and 2 guy? Yes, but if you're a number 1 and 2 guy, I need at least 9 K per 9 out of you. I just need it.
So Sandy Alcantara is weird for me. Alcantara, however you say it, is weird to me because, like you said, a 7.4 K per 9 is not necessarily something that I'm looking at for an ace. I drafted him as my number 4. But he's never been that guy. Like, he's never been, like, sure, in his first season, which was by far his worst, that was the only season he had a 10.8. He had over a 10 K per 9. Sandy is the kind of guy that, in my head, throws a heavy ball, throws a ball that's always just an inch lower than you actually perceive it to be. And he's throwing a lot of ground ball outs that find the lower half of the bat and get rolled over quite a bit. And for a 4 starter, I think that that's kind of ideal. I think that a lot of teams would pay solid money for that. I mean, we've seen a guy like Kyle Hendricks make a career off of doing the same thing. And I'm not trying to say Sandy Alcantara is Kyle Hendricks. I don't have his savant numbers in front of me, but Sandy Alcantara can throw a fucking fastball. And I think that coming off of the Tommy John surgery, now I could be digging myself a hole here because coming off of a Tommy John surgery for a team that has spent fucking nothing in free agency and literally traded away their entire roster at the trade deadline last season, I could be finding myself digging myself a hole. But just pulled up his baseball savant numbers. Yes, his K percentage is 26%, but the thing that gets me is his chase rate is 97th percentile in all of baseball. And it's on a fastball that has a 91% run value and 95th percentile velo. Like, the guy has a cannon for an arm. We're going to see how it recovers from Tommy John. That's you always have to say that. But there's a part of me that look at Walker Buehler. And I know that I'm close to Walker Buehler in terms of like having done a bunch of research on him because he just got to the Red Sox. But he just talked about how coming off of his Tommy John season, his first Tommy John, he found himself throwing harder than he had ever thrown in his big league career. And he started to rely on that. And that's what I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to Sandy Alcantara. But he already threw a 95th percentile fastball, that velocity wise, in baseball.
Right.
So if he does, and this is what happens when Tommy John surgery happens, pitchers spend a bunch of time in the lab recovering from Tommy John surgery. That leads to a mechanical focus, and they focus on mechanics and generating the most movement and velocity out of their pitches. And they have basically a year to year and a half to figure that out. I think that we're going to find ourselves where maybe Sandy Alcantara is just averaging 99 miles an hour on his fastball. And if you take his stuff and bring 99 to 100 miles an hour on command with that, I think we're looking at one of the better pitchers in all of the game.
I would agree with you, and all of that you kind of lay out for us there is exactly why I just am shocked at the low K per 9, right? Like the way you talked about him the last couple of minutes, to me, it sounds like a Dylan Cease, 10, 11 K per 9 situation. It's just weird. It doesn't
Strider
in my brain. Right. Now, by the way, no one's picked Strider yet.
Nobody's picked Strider yet.
Hold on. Can I go back? Just kidding. So, but what I will say, and one thing that I think could trap Alcantara is, you look at his movement profile on these pitches. He lives, if you're looking at the batter, folks, he lives in that upper kind of quartile of movement. So his pitches are always going to move basically up and in. And when all of your pitches have that same movement, you need to get more dynamic with your pitches, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. But I do think that that's why he generates so many ground balls, is because he's jamming everybody who makes contact.
And if you're jamming with 99, I'll take it.
Yeah, dude, you're dribbling into second base. Like you're generating a lot of ground balls that way.
Solid pick. For a number 4 or 5, that's a really solid pick.
Now, I mentioned, as I write him down, I spell his name, Alcantara. You mentioned that nobody had picked Spencer Strider. I'm not picking Spencer Strider with my final pick.
Bummer.
And I do think that this deserves a little bit of time to describe why. Why would I pick Sandy Alcantara? And then you're going to hear who my last pick is, and that's also a guy coming off of Tommy John. Why would I not pick Spencer Strider coming off of Tommy John? Personally, the vibe check doesn't pass on Spencer Strider being he's going to be more than half as productive as he was once he comes off of Tommy John, I think. But I don't think he's going to be nearly as dominant coming off of Tommy John because of the type of pitcher that Spencer Strider is. What is Spencer Strider? He's the second coming of Nolan Ryan. He is a overpowering fireballer of a pitcher. We saw his peak when it comes to arm strength and velocity and how he used that to overpower pitchers. I get scared for a pitcher like that, and I will feel this exact way when and if Garrett Crochet goes through his next big injury and has to have that internal brace procedure done on his elbow. I think that Spencer Strider type pitchers have a harder time recovering from Tommy John than a pitcher like the guy I'm about to pick. Again, I think about another guy who has a similar situation, like Walker Buehler. Walker Buehler was a fireballer after his first Tommy John, just had his second Tommy John, and has described his current outlook as being the best pitcher that he has ever been. A guy who has a lot of movement, a guy who can pitch to the situation better than he ever has. Spencer Strider could genuinely find himself in that. And maybe if he comes out of this with 96 mile an hour average velocity on his fastball and a bunch of movement on that curveball that we love so much, Spencer Strider could definitely be a very good pitcher. But that's not who I'm going with for my number 5 pick. For my number 5 pick, I'm going with a guy who never relied on being the fireballer, always relied on his stuff being the best stuff. Honestly, if you had to ask me at his peak, it was the best stuff in Major League Baseball. Shane McClanahan is going to be the number 5 starter on my rotation. And Shane McClanahan, I think, brings an arsenal that translates very well post Tommy John. Shane McClanahan is very good at the game of baseball. And in case you didn't know, the reason that I believe in him more than I believe in a guy like Spencer Strider coming off of Tommy John is that he is a 97% off-speed pitch run value. Every single out this guy records is based on the fact that his fastball was very fast and very explosive. However, it was also that juxtaposed against his other stuff in his arsenal that was always the most effective part of him. So I think that Shane McClanahan, not only also given the fact that I'm drafting another lefty in my rotation, Shane McClanahan, I think, in that pitching lab that is the Tampa Bay Rays, is going to be, I think, extremely effective coming off of the surgery.
What, that is a hell of a pick. Number one, totally forgot about him. Number two, I'm kind of pissed that I did forget about him because he, without a doubt, first off, he kind of fell off the map for everybody. I think we've all kind of forgot about him. But
yeah, it's been a long absence.
It has been a long absence, but I love your point about, it's something I don't know that we give enough credence to, is the type of pitchers coming off of these Tommy John surgeries and what they're able to do after. And I think about, I thought, honestly, where you were going with this, with your fifth starter, I thought you were going to Lucas Giolito because he is also one of those guys that I think could effectively come back from a major elbow surgery. And I think it goes back to, I think we talked about it last week, where we talked about CC Sabathia early in his career, fireballer. Second half of his career, just as maybe even more effective, being more of a finesse pitcher. And if you have a guy like Spencer Strider, a guy like Walker Buehler, who are coming off these injuries and want to have a long career, you got to know how to pitch. You got to know how to pitch with your B stuff or your C stuff, and not always your A stuff.
Yeah, we're talking about, so Spencer Strider, one of the other things that really bothers me about him, and this has turned into like a Spencer Strider flame fest, but I don't really care. Spencer Strider was never a guy that had a good day on his bad days. Spencer Strider has been a guy who gives up 6 runs on the day he doesn't have his fastball. And I'm so scared that the majority of the time he is not going to have that fastball anymore. Shane McClanahan is a guy who gives up 2 runs on his bad days. And I just don't see that changing. I don't know. I think he's the perfect kind of pitcher to recover from a Tommy John surgery.
Wow. Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. That's an excellent pick, man.
His fastball run value is only a 45. He's not relying on that velocity as much as everybody else is. And I'm looking at his Savant page. His extension, Shane McClanahan, he's 6'1", which is not spectacularly tall when we talk about the elite pitchers in Major League Baseball. But his extension, when he releases the ball, is a 92nd percentile extension. He releases the ball 7 feet from home, or 7 feet from the rubber, which is just, that is elite. And that's almost one of the most linear metrics that you can see. Anybody who releases the ball closer to home plate is more effective than most people who release the ball further. And I don't know. Shane McClanahan, man, I forgot about him until I forced myself to do some research a couple hours before this pod. And I was so glad that I came across him because he's a beast. He averages a 3.02 ERA over his 3 seasons. And yeah, just an absolute dog.
Well, time well spent. Wow. Man, these pitching rotations are really something else. So I want to kind of read them off for everyone so we know where we landed here with these rotations. So on my side, I have a 5-man rotation of Shohei Ohtani, Paul Skeens, Zach Wheeler, Garrett Crochet, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and then I have 2 relievers. I have 2 fireballers in Emmanuel Clase and Mason Miller.
And on my side, I have Tarek Skubal, Logan Webb, Dylan Cease, Sandy Alcantara, Shane McClanahan, Devin Williams, and Johan Duran. Now, going into this, I wanted to pick more lefties, and I just realized that I only picked 2. I was really looking forward to being like I got all the lefties on my team. But when you went ahead and picked Crochet, that kind of ruined all my plans. But man, I gotta say, like, I like both of these rotations. If you were to ask me personally which one I would take, and this is super biased, and I think I would take mine. Only because to me, your back end of your rotation, 4 and 5, and don't take this as any other way than just me overanalyzing everything, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani aren't, to me, the most overpowering pitchers in the world. And I think that when I look at my rotation and when I look at your rotation, every single one of my guys, I think about what happens when the Red Sox play against them. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Playing against Sandy Alcantara today, dude. It's going to be tough. And not that doesn't happen when it comes to Yamamoto and Shohei. Because I feel that way against the other three guys you have in Skeens, Wheeler, and Crochet. But when it comes to Yamamoto and Shohei, I feel like their bad days are more common. Not more common than their good days, but their bad days are just slightly more common. And that's just me using
I mean,
conjecture.
I don't know that I don't know that I was very clear. See, I have 5 guys, but Skeen's going to pitch 3 straight games. So
Okay. You didn't tell me that. So Shohei is going to be your closer like he was for the WBC. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, then of course I got to pick you, dude.
Oh my goodness. That was fun. We have all MLB lineups, all MLB rotations. Parker's going to share those out on socials, so make sure you go ahead, let us know which rotation you're picking, what lineup you're picking. Hell, let us know what team you're picking. Who fared better here, Parker or myself? So, Parker, we're going to have a interesting, fun couple weeks here. Not only as a reminder to everyone, are we going to spring training the beginning of March for a couple
I almost
days.
forgot about that and remembered it randomly today, and I was like, let's go, dude.
That is literally all I can think about, number one. And number two, leading up to spring training, folks, between now and then, we're doing division previews. We're going to go through every single division, talking about teams, what to watch for. We're going to talk about our predictions for how those standings will look come season's end. I'm very much looking forward to these. We're going to have a ton of fun.
So excited, man. So excited. Can't wait.
Cool. Good shit. If you are not following us on YouTube, please make sure you do that. Subscribe, check out our shorts, check out our extra content. If you do not want to sit here and watch or listen or watch an hour, 15-minute show, that's okay. We still love you. At least check out the shorts because we post those all week long.
A couple times a day, every single day of the week leading up to the next episode. We've tripled our Instagram following here in the last, week and a half.
Wow.
Appreciate everybody who did that. And hopefully some of you found your way over to the podcast. Super excited. Can't wait. This thing is like this. It's like this thing that me and Anthony do, just kind of like, we always say we would do it for fun. We would do it if nobody was watching, but it's so cool that some of you actually are and give a shit about the things that come out of our faces. So.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching and listening to our faces. We'll catch you next week here on Late Night Baseball. Take care, everybody.